Okay.
Thank you very much, Venerable Hasapanna, for agreeing to do this interview for E-Vam Institute.
It's my pleasure.
I wanted to ask you to tell us a little bit about the tradition of Buddhism that you live in and practice within.
Okay. So this Theravada traditions is a forest traditions. So we are more conservative. So the way, the training monastic life is pretty much very close to like Buddha's time. So like the alms mendicant, we are totally dependent on the generosity of the lay people, and we don't hold money, and actually completely that is we rely on the generosity of the lay people, and the way we practice is the closest to like the Buddha's time, and of course some people find it, how come you live with that, like you have no money and then you can go anywhere, So normally we arrange and we get used to it. We don't find it inconvenience. A lot of people think, oh, it's so inconvenience, but we get used to it, that, without money. And then whatever been offered, we just eat what been offered. And this is just truly living like a homeless life. So, but of course, as a trade for nuns, we live in the monastery, and some especially for trainee nuns. So yeah, so it's a more conservative. Theravada traditions is we are more conservative and more close to 2,500 years in the house, the Buddha's time, how they practice, So for us, even Theravada, they have also different sects, even those, is a Theravada traditions. Like for ours is a forest tradition, so we are more focused on like living in solitude, seclusion. Like we are more focused on the cultivation of the mind. So, and of course we do service, like for example, looking after the monastery and being in the monastery, and lay people come to offer, dana, to come and offer food to us, and they come and stay. So that's a part of our contributions, this is a mutual support. They come to support us, especially for our material well-being. So we give them the support, like they come here and they spend time with the nuns. And then of course, normally those trainee nuns, normally they don't involve so much in teaching, but of course when they're more senior, they will also take up the role of teaching. But while they're still junior, so they're more focused on training and just, to keep the monastery running, and and things like that. So yes, we are more. During Buddha's time, Buddhas were not alms round, and this is where they receive food, and then also sometimes he give teaching. So this is how the mutual support. So what we give back is Dhamma we teach, and then even teaching by example, how. I used to tell my nuns that, actually how you carry yourself, how you conduct yourself through your behavior. I said that is the best teaching. Sometimes it's not what you said, actually what you do, is truly, it's the best teaching, people can speak beautifully, and then, they have to look at how your behavior. So I said, your behavior speak louder than our action, our behavior speak louder than words, So that's why better than 1,000 words, So, and this is partly of training is more focused on, of course, with studying of the Vinaya and also meditation. So, like we encourage to live in solitude and seclusion. So that's why I was set up, the monastery set up, actually we are in a forest. So we have a quite big piece of bushland. It's close to 600 acres. So yeah, we truly in the bush. Yeah.
So Venerable, that kind of forest lifestyle where you're reliant on the lay people, Does that present challenges in a country like Australia, which isn't traditionally a Buddhist country, to set that up?
No, because we are lucky because we start off with Buddhist society. So the Buddhist society at the beginning is just a small center, and then after that they grow, and then they have more monks, and then they build monks monastery. There's Ajambram, Serpentine. Then after that we have a retreat center. Then we have a nuns monastery, and we have retreat center. And also we have a city center. So actually we're being well supported. That's, it's really, because our monastery maybe located in our location is really good. We are not too far from everything. So only 45 minutes to the city and 25 to 30 minutes to the closest suburb town. And they have all the facilities like hospital, bank, physio, whatever. We normally don't go to the city because we go to the closest town. We have all the facilities. And then we also have that peace and very peaceful place. It's quiet and peaceful and very good energy. So yeah, we are very lucky to have we got this piece of land that not too far, and it's also convenient for our lay supporters to come to the monastery to offer us food. And and also we have the solitude, the seclusion, the peace. Yeah.
So Venerable, you spoke before about how you, as a child, Venerable went to a Catholic school, and Venerable was only introduced to Buddhism through your brother, is that right? And then was there a moment that you really accepted Buddhism, or what was it like to really become a Buddhist for Venerable?
No, when I first listened to that talk about the 5 precepts and the teaching, and it makes sense to me. When I first listened, it makes sense. And I find it very easy. It's just easily acceptable. I find it really makes sense, and I really agree with at the beginning with all the teaching, and it just naturally. I'm just quite open to that. Yeah, even though I'm more familiar when I was young, with more familiar with because we sent to Catholic school. So of course sometimes morning we have once a week we have the nuns will give us a moral class, and then so talk about sometimes I've forgotten, sometimes we pray to God and Jesus, things like that. Yeah, but I don't know that time. It's just a child, but actually it didn't affect me much. It's very strange. Like I feel like I want to become a Christian or whatever when I grown up. I'm okay, but I don't have that strong inclination. Even though I don't really have much good impression on being a Buddhist monk or nun, but on the other hand, I don't have the strong inclinations towards, I don't know, maybe it just comes from previous life, Yeah.
So Venerable spoke a bit before about some of the challenges of being a woman and a Buddhist nun, particularly in some countries. Venerable was speaking about, in some countries, dana is, if people provide dana for a woman nun, it's considered to be of less merit than providing it to a monk. I wondered if Venerable could talk a bit about any challenges that you faced as a woman and a Buddhist nun.
I'm fortunate enough because I start my monastic training in Australia, but we have lots of support. And actually the other way around. So in the West, if we have that, you will putting people off. Where is and where is the equality, and people will start to question that, and that actually is the other way around. That's why when we go down to Dhammaloka and we have our dana, so with the monks, actually we go according to seniority. Like sometimes, like after Ajahn, so sometimes with me, then with monks according seniority. So we don't always go behind the monks, and also we only bow to the monks that is more senior than us. So we don't bow to those junior than us. So yeah, because I know the 8 Garudharma, because it's a bit of we only keep those that is in the, but because some of the Garudharma, I think quite a few, I think most of them is in the Pachitiya. Anyway, it's already in the Pachitiya. We are keeping it anyway, So that's why we just, because normally the Buddhas won't lay down rules, that it's already in the Pachitiya, and then you have it, in another. I mean, it's just the same step, that because the rules comes up when things happen. And then it's already in Pachitiya, and then you have in the Garudharma, it's already in the Vinaya rules. So that normally we only keep those. Yeah.
Okay, so Westerners have been introduced to Buddhism now, and there's a wealth of traditions that Westerners are encountering at the moment. Does Venerable have any advice for Westerners who are deciding on a path for themselves, a Buddhist path for themselves?
I mean, whether you're East or West, a mind is a mind. Actually, not much different with defilements. It's just only outside is different, appearance is different. I mean, actually, basically, we all have the same things, defilements, great hatred and delusion. I don't find it that is much different. Maybe the difference is maybe culture, but in Western Australia, especially for monks monastery and nuns monastery, we emphasize a lot that we adapt to the local tradition, culture. So we normally, especially for us, we don't impose. So like, for example, we don't follow much of like a Thai traditions or Sri Lankan tradition. We said it is Australian tradition. So because even the Buddha said that, a Buddhism that spread to the country, actually we have to adapt to the locals, you have to use the local language, you have to adapt the culture there. I mean, we can't impose other culture like Sri Lankan or Thai or Burmese culture, So that actually we have to adapt, the culture here is very different. I know we have some nuns. We have one nuns from Thailand. She said it's very different. When in Thailand you have to always like this all the time. But for us, we say okay, bye, see you. For them, like no, you have to do like this. So we don't have that much of hierarchy, and we encourage people to be able to questions and challenge. And actually, most of those, actually, people think that is Buddhism. Actually, it's not Buddhism. Some of them is just a cultural thing. It's just like you go, in Thailand, you have Thailand, they have the culture, and then Burma, they're a little bit different, and then in Tibet, and some of them is just a cultural thing. Actually, it's not really Buddhism, So we just follow the Buddha's teaching. And we encourage, that we especially Ajahn Brahm encourage that. So we don't always especially we don't, like for example, we have any ceremony in the public. So we only, when we see him in private, we bow to him, but we don't make it a big thing like all the nuns bow to the monk. So he doesn't like that. He said, So just bow to me whenever it's suitable, but not to make it a big thing, because sometimes to give people the impression that women is less, like second class, and then people have no faith in Buddhism. So especially come to the West, we want people to have faith in Buddhism, and not to people think that Buddhism is something that women is always second class, and we have good support, and yes, most of our supporters, they don't like it, that if we always like, even last time we do it, like we ask the monk go first, and then we go, all the monks go first, and we go, and then our lay supporters don't like it. They say, why you always put a nuns second class? So actually we have lots of support, I must say, especially in the West. So yes, we have that lots of support.
Venerable was speaking earlier about the kinds of support that your monastery offers to lay people, and Venerable was speaking about people with all kinds of struggles, including mental health struggles. What does Venerable think that Buddhism has to offer to Westerners who are struggling with mental health difficulties?
Yes, because it's really truly helped them to because especially in the West, I noticed that lots of guilt, tend to beat themselves. That's why for actually Buddhism is really because we don't encourage people to carry the guilt. So we encourage people to love themselves and not to think that, and truly respect themselves, to really appreciate ourselves, and we do not to carry the guilt, and especially the kindness, loving kindness and compassion towards oneself. That in Buddhism we emphasize so much about, loving yourself, to be kind to yourself, and I think and we discourage people to carry the guilt, and whatever happened, even we have done any silly things, we forgive ourselves and we move on. And I think it's really, we have many, especially in the West, and some from especially from the Christian background, normally that's carry lots of guilt. They tend to beat themselves up. They think that they have to be punished. If I have done something wrong, I have to punish myself. If I don't punish myself, I feel terrible. But we discourage that. I think it's really good. This is something that be able to this teaching, and actually I think it's really help people free of the guilt, carry the guilt, because that really causes lots of suffering, especially mental suffering, and how they identify themselves as terrible, as really bad, rather than thinking that we're just human, just okay to being ourselves. It's okay to to being who we are. I think it's really it's really helpful and useful. Especially those with mental, have a lot of mental suffering, and then actually you need to develop lots of spiritual qualities like loving kindness, compassion. Actually, it's helped to soften the mind. And I think mostly like mental suffering is mostly the lack of that love, and that love, that because we emphasize so much about, because it's naturally, as we purify our mind, you're naturally kind and compassionate. It's natural. It's not that I have, when we purify our mind, we're naturally kind, naturally compassionate. So that's why I think it's really that's why you can see Buddhism, they grow really fast in Australia compared to other religions. It's grew really fast, and I can see the growth also compared to when I first arrived in 2002 till now. I can see the increase. Like for us, like the Friday night talks, you see, most of the audience is from Westerners. Like last time when I first came, you still can see like maybe 40%, 30%, Westerners, and then Asian. But now I can see mostly now our Friday night talks, you know, and it's mostly, I think, almost 90%, you know, you hardly see, you know, and you can see the change, and you get more. And last time, when in monastery, usually the Asian will come to offer dana, offer food and things like that. But now we have more Westerners. That's why in our monastery is such a mix. Is a diverse, you know. Is the diversity, you know, of different ethnic. You know, we have people from Singapore, Malaysia, and Thailand. Sri Lankan, of course, locals, you know, like Westerners, you know, and yeah, it's growing. I can see how, and then Buddhism growing really fast, especially in Australia. It's really fast. Yeah.
Venerable Hasapanna, this is a Tibetan Buddhist institute.
Mm-hmm.
I wondered if you could talk about the relationship of your tradition to other Buddhist traditions.
Oh, okay. Because I don't know much about other traditions, because when I first introduced to Buddhism, that is first is Theravada, and then I just stick with this. And sometimes I just find that I'm just naturally have the inclination. So, but I believe, you know, to me is like, you know, when I look at some, you know, actually the core teaching is the same. You know, you talk about the Four Noble Truths, the core teaching is the same. It's just the practice is just different. It's just that you're using different vehicles, but you still get there. You know, so, you know, there's something, it depends on individual. You know, like for example, we don't force, you know, whoever come, a nuns that you have to practice a particular way, you know, whatever, you know, individual is different. Like those who are more inclined to forest tradition, they naturally come to us. Like those inclined to other tradition, they won't come to us. So to me, it's just a different vehicles, you know, but we still get there, you know. So yeah, because I really don't know much about other traditions, you know.
Thank you. I'm not sure how to put this question, but it's something that I've often wondered. I guess the best way I can think to put it is, Venerable, do you think that Buddhism is a path for everyone?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Actually, I think someone that asked the Buddha these questions is that anyone can get enlightened. You know, actually, the Buddha said it's not restricted to any religion or whatever. You know, as long as you follow the Eightfold Path, then that is possible. Then you can get enlightened. Whoever follow the Eightfold Path. So the Eightfold Path is not only restricted to Muslim. You know, it's just, you know, just way of life, isn't it? You know, and, you know, that is, you know, to have right view, you know, and right intention, right speech, you know, morality, and yeah, and cultivation of the mind, cultivate the samadhi, stillness, and wisdom. So it's not that you have to become a Buddhist and only you can practice it. I mean, you can call yourself whatever, it's just a label, it doesn't matter. You know, whether, you know, and some people so call themselves a Buddhist and may not truly really practice and follow the path, you know. So I mean, some people don't admit them. You know, some people they say that I have no religion, you know, or I'm not I'm not, you know, I'm not a Christian or whatever, but I'm just, you know. But sometimes the way they live, they already live, they already practice. They're really on the path. I see some people, they're really, truly very kind and truly, you know, very compassionate, and, you know, it's a beautiful people, wonderful people. Even though they don't label themselves a Buddhist, but they're really walking the path, you know. So that's why, to me, it doesn't matter who you call yourself. It's just a label. And you can label yourself. People can label themselves Buddhist, but they are not truly walking the path or truly practice. Yeah. I don't know whether that's answered your questions.
I think it does, yeah. So following on from what Venerable just spoke about, what makes someone a Buddhist?
Mm-hmm. What makes someone a Buddhist? And I think a Buddhist actually is just like, you know, to me it's like you just put a label on yourself like a Buddhist, you know. So what's, you know, that is, to me, is all basic. Is some really basic, you know, that being a human, you know, whether you are a Buddhist, you call yourself Buddhist or not, morality, you know, living a good life, and that is very basic. This is basic humanity, you know, regardless what religion, isn't it? That's, you know, to live a good life, to be a good person, to be kind, to be generous, to be compassionate, you know. That's the only thing the Buddhism that teach non-self, that's all. But the rest, actually, with any other religion, we have the common ground, like, you know, practice generosity, being kind, being compassionate, you know, and morality, you know, be a good person. So that's why it's not exclusively only Buddhist, you know. The only thing that the Buddhists teach, you know, even other religion, they also meditate. The meditation is not only exclusively only Buddhists meditate, you know. But the only things that the Buddhists teach is that the non-self, that we believe in rebirth. But any other thing that, other than that, we have the common ground. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Venerable Hasapanna, for sharing your thoughts with us. It's very generous of you. Thanks very much.
My pleasure. Okay, thank you.